I burned my hands trying to make a special dinner for my in-laws. My mother-in-law took one bite and spat it out. "You think you're good enough for my son with this?" Everyone laughed. Even him. I ate alone in the kitchen. But that same night, I sent out an email that changed our entire family's future. I burned my hands that afternoon trying to make dinner for people who never wanted me in their family. It was a Saturday in late October. Cool air outside, oven heat inside. I'd been up since 6 a.m., chopping, prepping, cleaning. I didn't just want to make a good impression, I needed to. My husband, Mark, had made it clear this dinner was important. "They're still adjusting," he said. "Just be yourself. Cook something good. You'll win them over." Adjusting? We'd been married 6 months. I had a job, paid my share of the bills, cooked every night, never raised my voice. I knew his mother hated me from day one, something about me not being the right type. Not polished enough. Not from their part of town. I'd heard the comments, the jabs about my family, my clothes, even how I laughed. Mark always said, "Ignore her. That's just how she is." But that day I was determined to be everything she wanted. I researched the menu for days. Pork tenderloin, mashed potatoes, carrots glazed with brown sugar, and her favorite lemon tart. I made the crust by hand. I was rushing between pans, trying to get everything timed perfectly, when I reached into the oven too quickly and hit the top rack. My right hand sizzled on contact. I screamed, dropped the tray of carrots. The whole thing splattered across the floor. My skin blistered instantly. Mark heard me yell, but didn't come into the kitchen. He was in the living room, setting up the wine. I wrapped my hand in a towel, forced myself to keep moving. I wasn't going to let a burn ruin it. They showed up right at 5. His mother walked in wearing a cream coat and didn't even look at me. His sister gave me a little side hug, like we were co-workers. No one brought anything, not even a bottle of wine or dessert. His aunt complained about the driveway being too steep. I smiled through it all. Mark poured wine, played host. I served dinner. His mother barely looked at her plate. She stabbed a piece of pork, put it in her mouth, and immediately made a face. Then she took her napkin, spit it out into it, right there at the table, and held it up. "You think you're good enough for my son with this?" she said. Just like that. Like I was garbage. Like my effort meant nothing. There was silence. For a moment I thought Mark would say something. Anything. He laughed. Not a nervous chuckle. A real laugh. Like he was embarrassed for me. His sister laughed next. Then the aunt. All of them around my table, laughing at my food, at me. I walked to the kitchen, still holding the serving spoon. I sat on the floor next to the trash can. I ate a scoop of the potatoes with my fingers because I couldn't hold a fork with the burns. I was shaking. My chest hurt. I wanted to scream, but I didn't want to give them more reason to laugh. I sat there until I heard the front door close behind them. When I came out, Mark was on the couch, scrolling on his phone like nothing had happened. "You okay?" he asked, not even looking up. That's when something inside me flipped. Not snapped. Flipped. Like a cold, hard switch. I went to our office, turned on the computer. I knew his password. I'd never used it before, but I knew it. He'd used it to log into our Netflix once. I remembered it. His Gmail opened. And there it was. Dozens of emails to someone named Renee. Some just a few days old.
Sweet. Familiar.
Detailed. Not just cheating, a relationship. There were receipts. Photos. Even a draft message he hadn't sent yet saying, "After the holidays, I'll have more freedom." I read every word with the same steady calm I used to glaze those carrots. Then I found Renee's email address. And I forwarded everything. But I didn't stop there. I found one more email address I recognized. One I wasn't supposed to. His boss. Then I attached a certain folder from his desktop labeled Consulting Side Work. Work I now realized was done on company time. Maybe even using company resources. I hit send. Then I closed the laptop. And I sat in the dark with my bandaged hands, finally starting to breathe again. I didn't cry. I didn't yell. I just started making a list. Because dinner was just the beginning. The next morning, he was in the kitchen making eggs like nothing had happened. Like he hadn't laughed while I was humiliated in front of his entire family. Like he hadn't cheated for years. Like I didn't just blow up his life with 2 emails. He didn't know yet. He slid a plate of eggs toward me and said, "You should have used more salt in the potatoes last night." I didn't say a word, just stared at him until he walked out of the room. At 10:14 a.m., his phone started buzzing. Loud, persistent. He picked it up, walked into the hallway, and I heard it. The first crack in his voice. Then the second call. Then the third. By 10:30, he was pacing. "What the hell did you do?" he asked, storming into the living room, holding his phone like it was proof of something. "Why would you send that to her?" "You mean Renee?" I said, folding the dish towel. She deserved to know she wasn't the only one being lied to. His face turned gray. "You don't know what you're talking about," he snapped. "Oh, I do," I said. "I read the email where you promised to spend forever with her. Funny, considering you told me last month we should start trying for a baby." He sat down on the couch like his legs gave out. Then he got another call from his boss. I didn't hear what was said, but I saw his face. He didn't say a word when he hung up, just looked at the wall like someone punched a hole in his life. I knew what I'd sent. Screenshots of invoices. Files dated during company hours. Drafts of reports he sold on the side. All from his work laptop. I didn't have to write a single word. His desktop folder did the talking. By noon, he was in our bedroom with the door closed, making quiet calls, trying to plug leaks in a sinking ship. I left the house. I drove to a cafe and opened a new email account. I forwarded every piece of evidence I had to my own personal folder. I opened a cloud storage drive, saved backups, just in case. Then I did something else. I emailed Mark's father. Not to tattle. To warn. He didn't respond, not right away. But 3 hours later, I got a message. I always knew something was wrong. "Thank you for telling me. Please keep this between us for now." That was enough. Later that week, Mark was suspended from work. Official reason: breach of policy and use of company resources for outside business. He told me it was temporary. I knew better. Then Renee responded. One line. I had no idea. "I'm done with him." She attached a screenshot of a breakup text she sent him. Said she blocked him. I printed it out. Left it on his pillow. The fallout began to spread. His mother called, furious. Not about what he did, but about how I made the family look bad. "Why would you ruin him like this?" she asked, her voice shrill. I told her the truth. Because he deserved it. And because none of you saw me as family. She hung up. Mark stopped sleeping in the same bed. We barely spoke. I started documenting everything: his bank activity, his moods, his calls. I wasn't leaving yet. I wanted every piece of evidence ready for when I did. And then something happened that changed the game again. I found out what he'd done with my name. 2 years ago, he had me sign some joint paperwork for a new credit card. Said it was to build credit for a house. I believed him. Turns out, he'd opened 2 more in my name. Maxed out both. Over $18,000 in debt. All under my social security number. That's when I stopped thinking of it as just betrayal. It was theft. And it gave me a whole new reason to go even deeper. I sat in the parking lot of the credit union, staring at the printed statements with my name on them. 2 credit cards I'd never touched, never spent a cent on. Charges going back 18 months. Designer shoes from Nordstrom. Hotel stays in Chicago. A $900 bar tab in Vegas. All under my name. All open with my signature. Forged. I took it to a fraud specialist. She confirmed it. "Looks like he signed for you. We'll need to investigate, but you may be able to press charges." I nodded, barely holding myself together. Mark was stealing from me while cheating on me, while letting his family spit in my face and laughing with them about it. He wasn't just a bad husband. He was dangerous.
I went home calm. I didn't mention the debt.
I didn't mention the credit report I pulled or the meeting with the fraud unit. I let him think I was still broken, still unsure, still sitting in the wreckage. But I started to move. Quietly, I called a lawyer. not just a divorce attorney. A financial recovery specialist. Someone who knew how to dig into accounts, unearth assets, and track hidden money. She was expensive. I used my own savings. Money Mark didn't know I had. She started pulling his records. Found a personal PayPal tied to a separate email I hadn't seen before. That's how he was getting paid for those side jobs. Thousands of dollars a month. Untaxed. Unreported. Hidden. He told me we couldn't afford to visit my family last Christmas. Said we needed to be careful with money. Meanwhile, he was flying to Reno with Renee. The lawyer said, "If you want to press charges, we'll need to keep this quiet. Build the file. Don't tip him off." So I played my role. I cooked. I smiled. Asked about his day. At night, while he slept on the couch, I opened documents, made notes, and recorded everything. Then I found the real twist. He hadn't just opened cards in my name. He'd refinanced my car. The title was in his name now. My car. Bought before I ever met him.
Paid for by my old job.
He took it while I was at work one day and used a shady broker to file a title change. I called the DMV. They said the paperwork looked legit. I lost it. Not outwardly. Internally. That was the final straw. He hadn't just betrayed me emotionally or financially. He was erasing me, piece by piece. I started preparing my escape. I found a one-bedroom rental under a different name, my cousin's. Paid the deposit in cash. Moved half my things into a storage unit an hour away. Quiet, methodical. I told my job I needed personal time starting in a few weeks. They agreed. Mark had no clue. Then, 2 weeks before I planned to leave, I came home early and heard his voice in the garage. Laughing. On speakerphone. It was his mother. She doesn't even know half of what's coming. You're going to walk away with everything.
He laughed.
She'll be lucky if I let her keep her name. I froze. I stayed in the hallway and listened. They were planning something, maybe already talking to a lawyer, maybe trying to make me look unstable. I knew this man. He was the kind who'd smile while gutting you legally. That night, I backed up every message, recorded every call, printed every receipt, every document. The lawyer said we had enough for a financial fraud case, identity theft, and a civil lawsuit. But I didn't want just legal revenge. I wanted everyone who protected him, everyone who laughed that night, to feel what I felt. So I planned one final move.
Something permanent.
Something public. And I was going to do it on a day no one in that family would ever forget. Mark's family had a tradition. Every year, they held a Thanksgiving brunch at his mother's house in the suburbs of Cincinnati. Not dinner, brunch. Fancy clothes, catered food, family photos. They invited neighbors, clients, church friends. It was their way of showing off. I'd only been once, and it was clear I didn't belong. That was the same year she introduced me as Mark's project. This year, they still invited me. I RSVP'd yes. I wore a long-sleeved black dress. Hair pulled back. No makeup. Just quiet. Mark didn't know I was coming. We hadn't spoken in 4 days. He was too busy trying to scramble after being officially terminated. Breach of trust and misuse of proprietary materials. They let him resign to avoid legal action. But he was done. He thought I didn't know about the car title, the debt, the forged credit cards. He thought I was still deciding whether I'd stay or not. That morning, I arrived right as brunch began. The whole house smelled like catered French toast and money. Everyone was dressed up, sipping coffee from tiny cups. Mark's mother blinked when she saw me. "You came," she said. "Yes," I said. "I wanted to say goodbye." Before she could reply, I walked to the living room. There were about 25 people there. Family, neighbors, a local pastor, a city councilman Mark's uncle was trying to impress. I stood in front of them and pulled a folded stack of papers from my bag. "I won't be long," I said. "I just wanted to share something before I go." I handed the first page to Mark's aunt, then another to the neighbor, then the sister. A stack of pages, printouts of emails, credit card fraud reports, screenshots of texts, copies of police reports I'd filed 2 days earlier. My lawyer had everything lined up, time-stamped, notarized. I was the quiet wife, I said. The one you all ignored or mocked. But while you were laughing at my cooking, your golden boy was committing federal crimes in my name. The room went silent. Mark came running from the hallway, shouting, "What the hell are you doing?" I held up my hand. "Police report number is on page 2, I said. Credit card fraud. Identity theft. Over $18,000. I turned to his mother. "You said I wasn't good enough for him. You were right. I was too good." And then I handed her the final envelope. Inside was a printed letter from Mark's boss. It confirmed the internal investigation, the resignation under pressure, and a clause stating that they reserved the right to pursue legal action should further evidence emerge. I looked around the room. So if anyone here gave him money, hired him for side work, or vouched for him, you might want to contact a lawyer. Then I walked out. I didn't cry. I didn't run. I didn't look back. That night, I moved into my new apartment. My lawyer filed the civil lawsuit the next morning. I froze our shared accounts. I removed my name from everything tied to him. His car? Towed. Registered fraudulently under my name. His credit? Destroyed. Within a month, he was served. His mother tried to call me. I blocked her. So did the sister. The aunt posted some vague message on Facebook about liars ruining families. I sent a private message with a file of documents and the line, "Let me know if you'd like to be added to the witness list." They never responded again. Mark? He called once from a different number, left a voicemail saying, "You ruined my life." I didn't reply. He did that all by himself. I didn't ruin him. I just made sure the truth finally got served cold.